Hey everybody, so I'm up and awake today, doing some stuff, tending my garden, and getting ready to take off for next adventure. And so I wanted to show you my cat. This is Bjorn Ironside, and I feel so bad every time I'm gone but he keeps himself pretty entertained, as you can see. Anyway, so one of the videos that I want to talk about, one of the things that I wanted to put out there and put some awareness out there about. So I told you I was a trucker, and what I hauled was food. I hauled reefer, and so that means that I know where every bit of the food that you eat comes from. And with all the things that are happening right now with our economy and the tariffs and everything that Trump's doing to try and reconstruct America, and I hope to Christ he's got a good plan happening, because this is extremely scary for a lot of us. But I have always, and everything that I've learned, on top of everything that I witnessed being a truck driver, you need to be thinking about your food. We all know this. I mean, some of us are just like, out of sight, out of mind, I don't care. I really like what I'm eating. It doesn't matter. I don't care. But, there was a lot of things that's happened to civilizations across the world that they went hungry. And why do you think that we are not vulnerable to that? You better start, and really, with the unsustainability of everything, all the crop molestation and, all the crap they're putting in our food. And really, we need to bring back the old ways. Start growing your own food. If you don't have room for a garden, then go buy a couple totes, and there's some YouTube videos about that. That's how I learned. Well, I've been gardening my whole life, so when I wasn't trucking, or any chance that I have, like right now, I'm not trucking anymore, and I'm trying to do other things here, which is another video here that I'll talk about. But where your food comes from, and just save yourself some money. And not only that, it's really good for your soul to, go buy some packs of seeds and just get like some plastic cups, drill some holes in them and set them up. You don't have to like buy all this fancy stuff that they want you to buy, seed starters and whatnot. There's all kinds of things you can use if you don't have the money to invest in building raised gardens and all of that. Old totes, old laundry baskets. I mean, there's so many things on YouTube about that. But I am nervous. I am leaning more towards a plant-based diet, though I do eat some meat. Just it is just not appetizing to me now. I love a good steak. Like, one of my favorite things to do is, go out in the middle of the desert and throw out my grill and put a nice ribeye and listen to the coyotes sing under the moonlight in the desert. I do that a lot. But it's a matter of choosing. You want to eat meat? I get it. Meat's good for a lot of people. But what we need to focus on is stop buying from factory farms. Because if you saw what I saw at the factory farms, and just the lack of respect for life, we've got to start fixing ourselves as human beings. Because obviously we're like way off from where we're naturally meant to be. Just spend a little extra dollar, if you can, and I get it's, a lot of times you can't afford that, or you got to go to the grocery store that's available to you, like where I live out in the middle of nowhere. There's one grocery store, but it's just a matter of making choices. Don't support big factory farms. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say who those factory farms are, but do the research and figure out. Just Google it. Who's factory farms? And stop buying from those people. Start, Google this. Google the next thing, independent farmers. And support the independent farmers, because factory farms have put them out of business. There's a lot of documentaries about that. You can check it out. But you really need to consider where your food is coming from. And we're not going to stop this relentless freight train that just seems to be out of control with food. And things will go back into balance if we just start growing our own produce in the backyard. Because now there's tariffs on Mexico, so guess what? Most of your produce will not be on the shelves. And I know that because I hauled a lot of produce, and I spent a lot of time down at the border, sitting, waiting on trucks to come across the border to bring in all the produce. And it's a world collaborated event to be able to keep the kind of produce that you want. So those times might be over now, for now. So think about your food. You may not be able to afford going to the grocery store anymore. Think about reducing, so these new tariffs have just put an addition of $2,000 a year on our grocery bills. Why not be smart about that and watch YouTube videos to learn how to garden if you don't know how? And why don't you put that money back in your pocket and just grow it in your backyard? Not only that, but it's so much healthier. If you're not somebody that likes vegetables, well, it kind of sucks to be you. Just start growing your own food. We all just need to start doing that again. Whatever that looks like, and buy your meat from independent farmers. I cannot stress that enough. And with all the situation that we got going on here with food, and I'm going to tell you something, since we're talking about food, and one of the things that I really wanted to, express, the big factory farms, meat holes is what we used to call them, and those meat holes were so gross that I didn't even want to open my truck doors, because when I did, the stench that was coming out of there, that, you can watch all kinds of YouTube videos on that too, about the stenches and things that are of these massive factories slaughtering plants, or, putting into the environment and all that stuff. If I want to eat a turkey, I want to eat a happy turkey that was cared about and loved, not one that is put into a factory-like existence from the moment they're born. Let me tell you what happens to these chickens. We love chickens so much. This is something that I think about a lot, when I look at food now in the grocery store. And let me tell you how this chicken that you eat, and a lot of you don't know this, and I've realized that because I've shared that here recently with a lot of people, about rotisserie chickens from certain stores and whatnot. So what happens to these chickens when they're brought in? They're brought in on huge, I'm sure you've seen them driving down the highway on the back of flatbed trucks, and they're in those cages, and we all know where they're going. And that's about as far as you see. Just don't think about it, don't talk about it. But here's what's happening. Those chickens are born in a massive, huge barn, and they're all over the place. Those chickens are laying on the ground and wallowing in their own poop, and a lot of them have these ulcers, and they're really sick, and they're really sad. little birds. They never, are ever outside to see the sunshine, to pick at the ground for bugs and, all the things that chickens do. They're put in these massive barns as chicks, and they're raised in there, and then they become sad little chickens with ulcers pussing out of their chest. Their feathers are plucked out and missing because they're just miserable. I mean, you got to have a conscience of some sort to, are you grateful that something that was alive gave its body to you for nourishment? That's some old, probably goes into Europe too, but I'm only aware of just how important that was in Native America and Native American cultures. We have to learn how to have respect for life again. That's something that is one of our biggest downfalls. So, as in humanity, it's something that we have to fix. And you can start doing it by making little efforts, like who you buy your meat from. Just be conscious about this. So these birds are raised, really sickly little birds, and they're sad. And then after they grow up in these, and they're not even alive for very long, and they don't even get the chance to grow up. They don't get the chance to experience sunshine, and they're living in this miserable conditions. And then they're stuffed in those cages that you see on the back of flatbed trucks, and they're taken to the meat holes, and there is a pole barn. There's a pole barn at every single one of these places, because this is how it's done. So all these flatbed trucks, they pull in their trailers, and they drop them underneath this pole barn. And there's like this energy flowing around this, and me being somebody that is sensitive, that picks up on energy and in a really intense way. There's like this really negative energy flowing around this pole barn. And it's just like, it gives you those creeps, of just, what is that feeling? And what's happening in there is, so all the trucks, they come in, and all the little birds are just like trying to move around. They just want to like stand up. I just want to feel the sun. I just want to stand up. I just want to pick a bug, I just want to stand up. God, and they can't. They're just kind of like flapping around because, God, can you imagine? You feel so bad, times when you feel like crap. Imagine spending your whole life feeling like crap. And there's a lot of people that do, unfortunately, and that's terrible. I'm one of those people. But as they're, flapping around, and they're just like, they know something's coming. I've been right next to these trailers when I'm moving it out with the frozen chicken in the back of my trailer. And as I'm going out, the chickens are coming in on the other side, and I've been right next to them. And I'll never forget the last time I was at one of the most disgusting meat holes in Arkansas. Let's see what company that is. You can figure it out on your own if you really want to know. And I looked over at these chickens, and they were so sad. They were just sad little chickens. I mean, they were just so, and I'm like, there is such a lack of respect for life. We human beings, we think we're, the number one thriving species on the planet, but really we were like locusts. But even locusts can, are in the natural order of balance of things. Look what we've done. So what, and this is my traditional ways of thinking, my Native American influence, is everything that's living here, if you believe in God, or you just believe in being a good human, you got to understand that everything that's alive on this planet is important. I mean, there's so many things that are studies and documentaries and everything proving, about the bees and their importance here, plants and trees and fantastic fungi and everything is in balance here that we're just not paying attention to because of the manipulation of world order has done to our psyche. The way that we think, how important our technological world and having the creature comforts that we have. It's just bizarre, really. I mean, it's super intense, but not even a world that I really even like to live in because it doesn't feel good to me. I mean, so because I'm aware and I've seen all these things and I've really researched it deeply. I have Alzheimer's that runs in my family. And I didn't want that. That's a whole nother video. I have a lot of experience with people with dementia and Alzheimer's, and we have to look at what the mistakes we've made. What have we ate? What have we ingested? What have we done to cause autism? And all the things that's happening to us are as a direct result of, and I'm going to tell you, all the emissions that are in the air, all the terrible things that are in the air caused by our cars and all of that. And you're breathing that. Now there's microplastics in clouds. Go humans. Way to go. It's in the water. I just watched something about how they found microplastics in a man's penis. So we've got to start being more conscientious. If you don't care about the rest of the world, you don't care about the planet, you don't care about living things, then care about yourself, if that's all you got. But when you're thinking about a life, and when you're throwing that chicken on your plate, or that steak on your plate, or just make small little changes. Jordan Peterson talks about this, and he's one of my online therapists, and he doesn't even know it, but if you just make one tiny little change. So start with this. Start with, I'm looking at this chicken on my plate, and I'm grateful that this thing gave its life for me to be able to eat this right now because it's really good and I love wings. And, just start with that. Start looking at what's on your plate. It was alive. And when you start doing that, then the whole human consciousness is going to change of, you're going to be forced into this about, you better figure out, so this doesn't turn to complete anarchy when there's no longer food on the shelves at the grocery store for whatever reason, whatever's happened. There's so many things that could happen to cause that. Remember COVID-19, and I was a trucker through that. Think about it's gonna start changing the way that you feel about what you're eating. Do you want to eat a pus-filled, sad little chicken? Is it really that good? You've got to start thinking about this stuff. So in these pole barns with the sad little chickens, how they lose their life is when they're all sitting there, all uncomfortable. All of a sudden, they're doused with water. First of all, you're miserable enough as it is because you don't even have the freedom to even stand up. And now you're doused with water, and then there's a massive volt of electricity that electrocutes all of them all at the same time. I've sat and watched it. And all I could think about was such a lack of respect for life. And it's been happening for a long time. So the next time you want to eat something from a factory farm, I want you to think about animals living in their own waste, which they do. They're not treated as living things, other than give them some food, whatever's going to make them fat so that they taste good in our mouth. That's the only thing that they're being thought of. When I eat a cow, I want to eat a cow that was happy and lived a happy cow life. out in the grass and whatever. And as long as we start contributing to those farmers that treat their animals like that, or if you have the means to have your own animals, do that. But we need to stop eating so much meat. First of all, I hauled the two things I hauled more than anything in this country were beer and meat. I hauled a lot of produce too. But start thinking about your food, because the best thing that I saw out there on the road, everything that I hauled, well, everything, the best thing in my theory and my philosophy and my knowledge and my wisdom that I bring to the table with all the years that I have been researching food. Not only have I researched food, but I have picked up the food from every single place, everything you can think of. I hauled it. I can tell you where it came from. I can tell you what it was, how it was shipped. I can tell you where the distribution center was. I can tell you how nasty it was or how clean it was. And the best places that you could possibly buy food, the best, most clean and wholesome food that you could to buy is produce. You have to be careful about that too, but we've got to eat something, right? And we got to go to the grocery store. If you're not growing your own food, just be mindful. Stop eating so much meat. Be more selective of what meat you buy. And it's going to put out of business factory farms eventually. So think about your food. Start thinking about, if I grow this food, not only is it healing to me to do that and how rewarding it is to eat something and watch it grow from a tiny seed. It's exciting. You can use anything to make a garden. There's all kinds of things. Old totes, that's what I'm using right now, because I live in the desert and you can't plant anything in the desert here. So I've got old totes without lids, and watch some YouTube videos about what other people did, because it's a lot of money to fill those things up full of dirt. So I've used old, leaves that I raked up out of my yard, and it's going to turn into nice compost. And you can go to the bait store, buy some worms, throw it in there, so you get the worm castings, and just research it on. It's not that hard, Get a couple of plastic cups or whatever, put some dirt in it. Drill some holes in the bottom, cut some holes in the bottom so it drains nicely. Put the seeds in there and just watch what happens. And then learn from it. And when you are feeding your body with stuff like that, it feels so much better, And aren't you tired of feeling like crap? Aren't you tired of being afraid of what you're eating? So take control of it. And that's my story about food. Have a great day, y'all.